Anybody else? You.
The title of your book seems to be very, I don't know, it seems to be it could be a lightning rod for contention. Have you had any stories about how bad that has gotten?
How what?
How bad that's gotten, or what's the worst that you had to deal with?
I published this book in July, and in August, I received an email from somebody who told me that I was the Antichrist, and that that the Bible foretold of my coming to do this. And I was like, "You're giving me a lot of credit, so thank you." But I'm not the Antichrist. I don't even believe that Christ is a relevant figure, so I cannot be opposed to that. But they get worse and worse from there. A lot of them aren't as articulate as the Antichrist guy. Some of them just tell me to go F myself, and that I will be effing myself in hell was the one I received actually yesterday. And yeah, no, that's...
Dream come true. I can't wait till I get there.
Yes.
So people start sending me hate mail like that. I'll know I've made it.
No, yeah, I cannot, I don't mind the hate mail. In fact, I started a portion of my website where I actually include all my hate mail messages. So it's davidmcafee.com. If you guys want to check it out, they're all on there, except for the ones from this week, because I haven't had time to put them on. All right, yeah.
We're just wondering, as far as your research goes, are you primarily interested in just an academic review of the religion, or do you kind of like to promote a particular ideology, or just like make aware, or do you have a particular stance?
I'm really interested in Christianity just because it's what I was born in, but I've done research in all kinds of different religions. I like to make aware that religion itself as an ideology, regardless of what religion you are, can be a bad thing, and it tends to be a bad thing very often. And a lot of people I speak to who agree with me on that, they're like, yeah, but I'm a Buddhist or something like that. And I'm like, well, there are plenty of Buddhist wars too. And people don't stop to think about the fact that there are, and they're very well known. And if you take an intro to Buddhism class, you'll learn a lot about wars in the name of all religions, including Christianity. I mean, Christianity is obviously a bigger one, but also Buddhism and Hinduism. So I don't like to promote any ideology other than that is secular. In that.
Question, I think you mentioned at first that all the quotes that you took in your book out of the King James translation. Was there any particular reason why you used that one in particular?
There was. I started off with the New International Version just because I consulted some religious scholars, not religious studies scholars, but theologists basically. I consulted them to see what they would find most relevant. New International Version seemed to be the most common among general Christian, non-denominational Christians. But King James Version is the most well-known, and it's the most used in the world still. So I found that was, because of its lack of copyright laws, is why it's still the best. It's not the easiest to read, and that's why people don't like it, I assume. There are some bigger words in there, but gotta muddle through those. And yeah.
Do you talk about the historicity of Jesus at all?
I don't, actually, and I've been working with a couple different people on projects similar to that, but I don't deal with whether or not Jesus existed. I just deal specifically with biblical contradictions, so anything you see in the Bible that contradicts itself, and also contradictions from what you'll read in the Bible to what you learn in a modern church today, and they're so far apart that it's really hard to recognize what you read in the Bible to what they're preaching now. So I found that was a little more important than whether or not he existed. He could have existed or not. Just depends on. We'll never know that part for sure. What I do know for sure is that certain parts of the Bible don't agree with other parts of the Bible. Yeah.
Can I ask you who's on the cover of your book?
What was that?
Can I ask you who's on the cover of your book?
Yes, that is an image of the representation of Jesus Christ on the crucifix.
Okay. Can I ask you why you chose that if you don't really deal with him as a figure?
There are plenty of things with Jesus in the book, and it's Christianity that's living like the Christ, which is deemed by Jesus of Nazareth. So that's why I chose that. Christianity is symbolized by the cross, so the separation of the cross to me symbolized the separation of the Christian religion. The first cover I had wasn't this. It was actually a cross on a piece of paper with rip marks in the middle, which was more relevant to me because it was paper ripping, which was like the Bible, which is essentially what I was doing. But this has gotten a better response as far as visual aesthetics. That answers the question. Yeah.
So it seems that lots of your book, or maybe all of it, has to do with specific arguments against that specific religion. Is there anything in your book about just overarching, like, I don't know, more sort of like pulling back just why a sort of secular standpoint just against all religions is a good idea, or do you sort of just focus on?
I try to put as little opinion in it as possible. Saying that religion's a bad idea is kind of an opinionated statement. I put a lot of statistics in there saying like Christianity, murders in the name of Christianity. I cite some of those, talk about abortion clinic bombings and the KKK being started in the name of Christianity. So you can do that with any religion. I mean, obviously with Islam, you can talk about extremists who do things in the name of their religion, and you could do that with pretty much anybody. But I try to limit it to Christianity as much as possible, but some of that does get through. I also, the very first words of the book, I start off by saying that the pages that follow will be focused on the fallacies, improbabilities, and contradictions created by the Christian tradition, not the idea of God as a whole. So this isn't technically an atheist scripture because it's not saying that there is or isn't a God. There are certain parts, however, that go towards disproving the specific God that is the Judeo-Christian God. And that's just saying that he says he's all-powerful, and he is all-powerful, but in some areas he's not able to do something where he's trying to do. So that's disproving that type of a God, but not a God in a more general theistic sense. You again.
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
You said that you consulted a few theologians
Mm-hmm.
concerning the choice of translation to go with. Do you mind citing some of those sources, or who you think?
Mostly at the missionary in Santa Barbara. I spoke to a few people there, the mission there. And then also, a good name to look up would be Tyler Vela, V-E-L-A. Not sure if that's how you pronounce his last name, but he is a very, very respected theologian in Ventura, California. And he has actually written a review about my book that obviously is not favorable, but I encourage you to check it out anyway. I myself have not read it yet. It was just published maybe a week ago. So I'll be reading that and clearly have a response towards that as well. But it's about half the length of my book, so it's 50 pages to get through, and I'll get to it eventually. But he's been the number one person I've consulted on most of this, and from what I've heard from other religious authorities, he seems to be pretty reliable.
What is his background? Catholic, Protestant?
He's definitely Protestant, but I don't know where he went specifically. I think Moody Bible Institute, if that rings a bell. I think that's where he works now. So, yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
Is it just like a friendly academic discourse when you have these like conversations with theologians and stuff, or is it kind of? I would just have a hard time like imagining like you go up to them and say like, well, you know, I'd like to disprove your religion. So which text would be best suited to do that?
No, I obviously heard a lot of no's before I met Tyler and before I was able to talk to anyone. I write about in the book how I went to a priest and I asked him just if I could ask him some basic questions about the Bible and about religion to get his. I was going to put like a section in the book where Christians could respond to it, and that was my idea. But he declined my request politely and then banned me from the church. That church specifically, not the church and with a capital C, but that church specifically, I'm no longer allowed to go in because I guess he Googled me after I left his office or something and found that to be incredibly offensive to his religion. Anyone else?